The blade bit into the practice shield, sending splinters flying as Eira Eiriksdottir stumbled back, her breath catching in her throat. Around the training yard, warriors of the Crow clan paused their own drills to watch the spectacle. Not because a shield had been broken, that happened daily, but because it was Eira who held the splintered remains. Women train with smaller shields, barked Ulfgar, the weapons master. Take a proper one and stop wasting good wood. Eira's knuckles whitened around the shield's grip. She was already using the smallest shield in the yard, fashioned for the youngest boys beginning their training. At 16 winters, she stood taller than many women but lacked the broad shoulders of the men who dominated the training grounds. "I will use this one," she replied, her voice steady despite the burning in her chest. Ulfgar spat on the ground. "Thorgrim's daughter or not, you have no place here. Your father tolerates this folly because he has no sons to replace the ones he lost, but the gods gave you a woman's form for a reason." Around them, snickering broke out among the young warriors. Eira had heard these words before, the daily, for years, but they still cut deeper than any blade. Her father, once the mightiest of the Njals who led the Crow clan, had indeed lost all 4 of his sons in a raid gone wrong when she was just 7. Their longship had been caught in a storm off the Frankish coast, and only 3 warriors had returned to tell the tale. Since that day, something had broken in Thorgrim. He neither encouraged nor forbade Eira's determination to train as a shield maiden. He simply looked through her as though expecting someone else to materialize in her place. "Again," she said, lifting her broken shield and positioning herself opposite Hrafn, a brawny youth whose father served as her father's chief advisor. The boy grinned, eager to humiliate her further. "The Allfather himself could not make a shield maiden of you," Hrafn taunted. "Your shoulders are too narrow, your arms too weak. The gods curse women who deny their nature." But Eira knew something they did not. She had watched her mother waste away after her brothers died, had seen how women with no sons were cast aside, how widows without warrior children became nothing. In the Crow clan, a woman's value lay in the sons she bore and the warriors she raised. Without them, she might as well be a thrall. And Eira had decided long ago that she would forge her own worth. Hrafn swung again, his axe whistling through the air. Instead of meeting the blow head-on as a man might, Eira pivoted, allowing the momentum of his strike to carry past her. Before he could recover, she drove the broken shield's edge into his side and swept his legs from beneath him. Silence fell over the training yard. Hrafn sprawled in the mud, his face a mask of shock and rage. "You fight like a fox, with tricks instead of honor." Ulfgar stepped between them before Hrafn could rise. "Enough. Eira, your father summons you to the Great Hall. The messengers have arrived from the Wolf clan." Eira's stomach twisted. The Wolf clan, their bitter enemies for 3 generations, ever since wolf warriors had slaughtered her grandfather's brothers during what was meant to be a peaceful thing assembly. The blood feud had claimed dozens of lives on both sides, including, many whispered, her brothers. Some said the storm that sank their ship was actually a Wolf clan ambush. In the Great Hall, her father sat in his high seat, looking older than his 50 winters. Around him gathered his advisors and the clan's most respected warriors. At the center of the room stood 3 men wearing the distinctive grey cloaks of the Wolf clan, their faces grim but composed. "Daughter," Thorgrim acknowledged her without warmth. "The Wolf clan brings terms." The tallest of the messengers stepped forward. "Njal Sigurd of the Wolf clan offers peace between our peoples. Too much blood has been spilled." "Peace," one of the older warriors spat. "After 3 generations of treachery." "The terms," her father said, silencing the outburst. "Speak them plainly." "A marriage alliance," the messenger replied. "Between Njal Sigurd's son and heir, Njal and your daughter, Eira." Their children will carry both bloodlines, ending the feud forever. The hall erupted, voices shouting over one another. Eira stood frozen, her practice sword still clutched in her mud-stained hand. Marriage to a wolf? The very people who might have killed her brothers? Her father raised a hand, and the hall fell silent. And if I refuse? Then Njal Sigurd will sail with 30 ships when the ice breaks in spring. He has already secured promises of support from the Bear clan and the Sea Ravens. An alliance of 3 clans would overwhelm the Crow clan's defenses. Everyone knew it. Leave us, Thorgrim commanded. I will consider these terms and give my answer tomorrow. As the messengers departed, Eira stepped forward. Father, you cannot. I have lost 4 sons to this feud. He cut her off, his voice like stone. I will not lose what remains of my clan. So you would give me to our enemies? To the son of those who may have killed my brothers? Her father finally looked directly at her, truly seeing her for perhaps the first time in years. You speak of becoming a shield maiden, of protecting our clan. This is how you can serve your people. By surrendering? By breeding sons for our enemies. By ending a blood feud that has claimed too many lives, he replied. The daughters of Jarls have always sealed alliances with their marriages. This is your duty. That night, Eira sat alone on the shore, watching the moonlight play across the fjord waters. The wind carried the scent of coming snow, the promise of another harsh winter. But for the first time in her memory, the spring might not bring raids and more bloodshed, only her sacrifice. Is it true? A deep voice asked from behind her. She whirled, hand reaching for a knife that wasn't there. A man stood several paces away, hands empty at his sides. His cloak was grey in the moonlight. A wolf. Eira tensed, ready to call for guards, when she realized who it must be. You're Njal Calder. My intended. He inclined his head, a single nod. In the silvery light, she could make out broad shoulders, a strong jaw framed by a short beard, and eyes that watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Why are you here? The answer hasn't been given yet. I wanted to see you, he replied simply. Before you were brought to me in chains of duty and obligation. His honesty surprised her. And now that you have. Now I know why my father chose you. His gaze traveled over her practice-hardened form. The Crow clan's shield maiden. Stories of you have reached even our halls. Eira laughed bitterly. Then your sources are poor. I am no shield maiden, merely a Jarl's daughter who plays at war until she's sold to seal an alliance. Is that what you believe? That you're being sold? Isn't that what marriage is for women of our station? A transaction between men. Njal stepped closer, and moonlight revealed a scar running from his temple to his jaw. My mother was a shield maiden before she married my father. She still carries her shield and sword. No one in our clan would dare stop her. Eira stared at him. You lie? No clan allows their women to. The Wolf clan does, he interrupted. We need every warrior we can train, man or woman. My father has 3 shield maidens among his personal guard. The revelation struck Eira like a physical blow. All these years, she had fought against her own clan's traditions, believing all Vikings shared the same beliefs about a woman's place. Why would your father want me, then? Surely he has shield maidens of his own clan he could offer you. Something flickered across Njal's face, a hesitation, perhaps. The blood feud must end. Both our clans have lost too much. He paused. Including my 2 brothers in the same storm that claimed yours. What? Eira stepped back. But everyone says that we ambushed them? No. The storm took them. Our ship was following yours, yes, to attack, I won't lie about that, but we watched the waves claim your brothers. My brothers went into the water trying to save some of your men. His voice dropped. The sea took them all. Why would you try to save your enemies? Because they were warriors dying without weapons in their hands. No one deserves to be taken by the sea without a chance to fight. He looked out at the dark water. That is not the way to Valhalla. Something shifted in Eira's understanding of the world. The wolf clan, monstrous enemies in all the stories she'd heard since childhood, had tried to save her brothers from drowning. If what you say is true, why hasn't anyone told this story before? Who survived to tell it? The 3 men who made it to shore from your ship? They never saw us. And our survivors, well, would your clan have believed them if they'd tried to explain? Eira had no answer. Her entire life had been shaped by hatred for the wolf clan, the monsters who had slaughtered her kin for generations. The thought that they might be people with their own losses, their own honor, threatened everything she believed. I should go back, she said finally. Tomorrow your father will accept our offer, Njal said. He must, or face destruction in the spring. And what if I refuse? What if I run away tonight? Njal's expression hardened. Then many will die, including those you love. Is that what you want? What I want, Eira said fiercely, is to choose my own fate. As do I, Njal admitted, surprising her again. But we are our father's children. The needs of our clans come before our own desires. The next morning, Thorgrim gave his answer. Eira would marry Njal when the winter ended, sealing the alliance between wolf and crow. That night, she slipped away from the celebration feast, took a small boat, and vanished into the darkness. She did not go far, only to a small island in the fjord where she had played as a child. There, in a cave above the tide line, she made camp and considered her options. She could flee south to the trading towns, perhaps find passage on a merchant ship to distant lands. Or she could steal a larger boat and try to reach the western islands where some said there were settlements without jarls or blood feuds. On the 3rd day, as she was fishing from the rocky shore, a boat approached. Eira reached for her knife, preparing to defend herself or flee into the cave's depths. But it was Njal who stepped ashore, alone. Your father's men search the forests, he said without preamble. They believe you fled inland. How did you find me? You mentioned this place when we spoke. An island where you once found a raven's feather so large you thought it belonged to one of Odin's messengers. Eira frowned. I said no such thing. Not in words, Njal agreed. But when you looked across the water, your eyes lingered here. It was a guess. A good one, she had to admit. Have you come to drag me back? I come to offer you a choice. What choice? To marry you willingly or be bound and carried to the ceremony. Njal's jaw tightened. The choice to end the blood feud your way, not with a marriage, but with a challenge. Eira stared at him. What challenge? Challenge me to homegang. Single combat, witnessed by both clans. If you win, the marriage pact is void, and my father will still honor the peace. And if you win? We marry, as planned. Why would your father agree to this? Njal smiled slightly. Because he believes I'll win. And because the spectacle of it, the daughter of Thorgrim fighting the son of Sigurd, will make for such a memorable tale that neither clan would dare break the resulting peace, however it ends. My father would never allow it. He already has, Njal replied. When I told him where to find you. Eira's mind raced. A homegang was sacred, its outcome binding under the eyes of gods and men. If she won, she would be free of the marriage, but still bound to her clan, still the daughter whose only value lay in the alliance she could forge. But if she fought well, if she proved herself a warrior worthy of respect. "I accept," she said. "But there must be witnesses from both clans. And we fight with real weapons, not blunted training swords." Njal nodded. 3 days hence, on the flat ground by the sacred oak. Until then, you should return to your father's hall. Prepare. For 3 days, Eira trained harder than ever before. Ulfgar, the weapons master, suddenly found time to correct her form, to show her techniques he'd previously withheld. Word had spread of the coming homegang, and overnight, Eira had transformed from an oddity to be mocked into something new, a symbol of Crow clan pride. On the morning of the homegang, both clans gathered around a square marked out with hazel branches. Eira stood at one corner, dressed in leather armor, her shield newly made and painted with the black crow of her clan. Across from her, Njal wore similar armor, his shield bearing the grey wolf head. Thorgrim approached her before the combat began. "You need not do this. The marriage agreement stands." "I need to do this," Eira replied. "For myself." Something like understanding crossed her father's weathered face. "Your mother would be proud." She had the same fire. Before Eira could respond to this unprecedented acknowledgement, the ceremony began. A goat was sacrificed, its blood sprinkled on the ground to sanctify the combat space. The rules were announced: the first to step outside the marked square, to become unable to fight, or to yield would lose. At the signal, Njal attacked immediately, his sword ablur as it crashed against Eira's shield. The impact sent vibrations up her arm, but her shield held. She countered with a thrust toward his midsection that he barely deflected. They circled each other, exchanging blows, testing defenses. Eira quickly realized that Njal was indeed the superior warrior, stronger, more experienced, with a longer reach. But she was faster, more agile, and fighting for something beyond just this combat. When Njal swung overhead, Eira didn't try to block the powerful blow. Instead, she stepped inside his guard, accepting a glancing hit to her shoulder while driving her shield's edge into his ribs. Njal grunted in pain but recovered quickly, shoving her back. The combat continued, sweat soaking through their armor despite the winter chill. Eira's arms grew heavy, her breathing labored. A cut above her eye dripped blood, half blinding her. Njal had not escaped unscathed either. He limped slightly from a blow to his thigh, and blood seeped from a gash on his sword arm. "Yield," he said quietly during a momentary pause when their shields pressed together. "You've proven your worth. No one would think less of you." "I haven't proven anything yet," she replied through gritted teeth. With renewed determination, Eira launched a flurry of attacks, driving Njal back toward the boundary. He countered with a sweeping blow that nearly took her legs from under her. As she stumbled, he pressed forward, his sword descending toward her shoulder. Instead of retreating, Eira stepped into the blow, catching his wrist with her free hand while ramming her helmeted head into his chest. The unexpected move threw Njal off balance. They grappled briefly before both crashed to the ground inside the square. Njal recovered first, rolling atop her with his blade at her throat. "Yield," he commanded again, loud enough for all to hear. Eira became acutely aware of the silence around them, of hundreds of eyes watching. In that moment, she realized something crucial: Njal could have ended this combat earlier. He was holding back, not out of contempt for her skills, but out of respect. And in that realization, the truth of her situation crystallized. This combat, win or lose, wouldn't change her father's need for the alliance. It wouldn't stop the Wolf clan from overwhelming the Crows if peace failed. but it could change how she entered that alliance. "I yield," she said clearly, "to a worthy opponent." Murmurs swept through the crowd as Njal helped her to her feet. Blood streaked both their faces as they stood before the gathered clans. "The home gang is decided," announced the law speaker. Njal Calder stands victorious. "The marriage pact will proceed." But Njal raised his hand. "Before witnesses from both clans, I declare that Eira Eiriksdottir has fought with honor and skill worthy of any warrior. When she becomes my wife, she will also be recognized as a shield maiden of the Wolf clan, with all rights to train and fight as her heart desires." Stunned silence followed his proclamation. Then, unexpectedly, a cheer rose from the Wolf clan side. Several shield maidens among them raised their weapons in salute. Eira stared at Njal, understanding dawning. He had given her what her own clan never would, recognition as a warrior in her own right. The wedding took place at the next full moon. Eira wore her mother's bridal crown, but beneath her wedding dress, she wore the arm rings of a warrior, given to her by Njal's mother, herself a formidable shield maiden who had led raids in her youth. As Eira prepared to leave her father's hall for her new home, Thorgrim approached. For the first time since her brothers died, he embraced her. "You have brought peace where I could only continue war," he said gruffly. "Perhaps that is a greater victory than any won by sword." "I will make you proud," Eira promised. "You already have. Now go and show the Wolf clan the strength of Crow women." The journey to her new home took 3 days. When they arrived, Eira was stunned to find women training alongside men in the Wolf clan's practice yards. Njal's mother, Brynja, greeted her not as a daughter-in-law, but as a fellow warrior. "My son says you fight like the Valkyries themselves," the older woman said approvingly. "Tomorrow, you will show me." That night, alone in their new quarters, Njal unwound the bandage on Eira's arm, examining the cut he'd given her during their combat. "It will make a good scar," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. "One of many, I hope," Eira replied, then hesitated. "Why did you do it? Why champion me as a shield maiden when you could have simply claimed a docile bride?" Njal's expression grew serious. "Because I've seen what happens to the flame inside a person when it's extinguished. My sister, my younger sister, wanted to be a shield maiden too. But she died raiding with my brothers before she could prove herself." "I'm sorry," Eira said softly. "When my father chose you for the marriage alliance, I investigated. The stories of Thorgrim's daughter who defied tradition to train as a warrior, they reminded me of her." He touched Eira's cheek. "I couldn't save her. But I could honor her memory by ensuring you weren't forced to extinguish your flame." Understanding blossomed between them, not love, not yet, but something that could grow into it. Respect. Recognition of each other's honor and worth. "I still don't know if I can forgive the blood feud," Eira admitted. 3 generations of hatred can't disappear overnight. "Nor should it," Njal agreed. "But perhaps our children will know a different world, one where wolf and crow fight alongside each other instead of against each other." "Children," Eira murmured. "Future warriors." "Future shield bearers," Njal corrected. "Whether they be sons or daughters." In the morning, Eira took her place in the training yard of her new clan. The warriors eyed her with curiosity, some with skepticism. Brynja handed her a shield painted half with a wolf, half with a crow. "Show them," the older shield maiden said. And Eira did. Day after day, she trained harder than anyone, earning first reluctant respect, then genuine admiration. When spring came and the ice broke, she sailed on her first raid alongside Njal and his mother. On that raid, she claimed her first shield wall victory, saving 3 Wolf clan warriors when Saxon defenders broke through their line. Word of her ferocity spread, and by the following year, songs were already being sung about Eira Wolfcrow, the shield maiden who united two bloodlines. In their third year of marriage, as Eira's belly swelled with their first child, raiders from the east attacked the Wolf clan's harbor. Njal was away with half their warriors on a trading expedition. With only a skeleton force to defend the settlement, Eira organized the remaining warriors, including every shield maiden, into a defensive formation that held until reinforcements arrived from the Crow clan. Standing alongside her father and husband as they drove the eastern raiders back into the sea, Eira realized that the blood feud that had defined her life was truly over. In its place stood something stronger, an alliance forged not just by marriage, but by shared battle, shared losses, and shared victories. That night, as the victory celebration roared around them, Njal rested his hand on Eira's rounded belly. "Boy or girl, this child will be raised in peace between our clans." "Not complete peace," Eira corrected with a warrior's smile. "There will always be enemies to fight. But we'll face them together, wolf and crow as one." Years passed. Eira bore 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, all of whom learned to wield shield and sword as soon as they could walk. Her daughters became shield maidens in their own right, her son a respected warrior who looked to both parents for guidance. By the time silver threaded Eira's hair, her name was known across the Norse lands. Eira Wolfcrow, they called her, the shield maiden who ended a blood feud and united 2 mighty clans. Young women from distant settlements sought her out for training. Njal sought her counsel in disputes. And when Thorgrim died, it was Eira who performed the funeral rites as his successor, not as Njal of the Crow clan, that title passed to her cousin, but as the living embodiment of the alliance that had brought unprecedented prosperity to both clans. On her 50th winter, as she stood atop the cliffs watching the midsummer sun hang perpetually on the horizon, Njal joined her. His beard was fully grey now, his face lined with age and weather, but his eyes still held the same intensity that had captured her attention that moonlit night by the fjord. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Yielding in the holmgang?" Eira smiled. "I didn't yield to you. I yielded to a future I couldn't yet see." "A wise warrior knows which battles can be won with a sword, and which must be won with wisdom," Njal quoted, one of the many sayings she had become known for. "And sometimes," Eira added, taking his hand, "the greatest victory comes from laying down your shield at the right moment, so you can pick up something more valuable." Below them, in the harbor that now serviced both wolf and crow ships, their grandchildren played, children who bore no clan marks because they belonged to both. And in that moment, Eira knew that while songs might tell of her shield wall victories for generations to come, this was her true legacy, peace born from the ashes of a blood feud, forged in the fires of a love that had begun with a challenge and grown into a legend.